Welcome to the Birds vs. Boys Game Day Reaction Show, Week 11. Eagles squeak out a win and beat the Colts in Indianapolis today, 17-16. It was not exactly a highlight factory, but they do get a win in the end and improve to 9-1. Before we fully get into it, make sure to like, subscribe to our YouTube page. Tons of YouTube content coming this week with the Cowboys playing on Thanksgiving and having a huge win today, as well as the Eagles getting a win. So we've got a lot more coming and a lot more guests. So make sure to subscribe. Now let's get into the game itself. And let's just start from the beginning and work our way forwards, because I think that's the best way to describe what happened today. And at first, you're thinking this is going to be more of the same. It sounds like I was just going to pick up from our last show, talking about long, sustained drives where the defense couldn't get off the field, because you're sitting there saying, oh no, 10-play drive, 75 yards. Jonathan Taylor had 49 yards rushing on that drive. And you're saying, oh no, here we go again. Nothing has changed. Well, it did. Jonathan Taylor, as I mentioned, had 49 yards on that drive. He would not hit another 49 yards the entire rest of the game after that. And actually, in his final 44 and a half minutes of play, he went 12 carries, 20 yards, and a fumble. The defense held this thing together while the offense struggled for almost the entirety of the game. They were fantastic in limiting damage today when there could have been a ton of damage where the offense set them up for failure. You guys know I love to yell and scream and complain about Jonathan Gannon and his defense. You cannot complain at all about the defense today and the job that they were able to do in limiting the Colts offense after that first drive. And a big part of that, which is also just great going forward, how about the new guys, Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh, making plays? Signed on Thursday, playing today, and not only playing, but being effective in doing so. The highlight of the day came when they combined for a sack on Matt Ryan, which was awesome, but they did their job stopping the run, plugging up the gaps, and not allowing Jonathan Taylor to get going and put them in these 3rd and 1s because he's got a 6-yard carry and stuff like that, and not allow him to have a 66-yard run like he had last week against the Raiders. They were fantastic up front today. And they had those two combined 7 tackles, 5 assists, and then obviously the highlight of the sack that they combined for. So they made a difference today, which is great, because that's a short-term solution that you needed coming off the Monday night loss where Brian Robinson was able to run on you and run effectively. And it's a long-term solution because you look at it, you hope to get Jordan Davis back in about 2 weeks. Hopefully he's back for that Titans game against the one and only Derrick Henry. If there was one game I'd like Jordan Davis for, and the entire season it would be against Derrick Henry. But you look at it, once you get him back, if this is the level of play you're going to get from Joseph and Suh, you got to be happy now with the depth that you have at defensive line. And especially inside defensive interior, obviously Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, Milton Williams are all still there. Now you got Suh, Joseph, and hopefully Jordan Davis returning. All of a sudden, what looked like a red flag weakness for the Eagles could turn into a strength. And if that's one takeaway from today, it's the fact that you had a short-term solution, that they stopped the run today. They got pressure on Matt Ryan up front, but also that could help going forward for the rest of the season. Those guys look great. The defensive line as a whole did their job. The defense as a whole did their job. And they were in a lot of bad situations. We'll get into it with the offense and switch over to them. But think about it. Coming out of the second half, we have the ball first. First play is a strip sack on a terrible play design and execution from the offense, puts the defense in a terrible position where the one play into the half, the Colts have the ball to 25. What do? They forced a field goal. Think about it. Even on the drive where they gave up some yards in a situation where it's a 13-10 game in the fourth quarter, the Colts had the ball at the 5-yard line after a pass to Paris Campbell to get them down there. They stopped them from scoring a touchdown, and not only stopped them from scoring, on 3rd and goal, Hassan Reddick gets a sack and forces them all the way back to the 20. They hit the cheap shot field goal, but it doesn't matter because you saved yourself, you limited the damage, and you prevented disaster. It set up the opportunity for Jalen Hurts and the offense to win this game, which they did. They did that all day. You think about another situation, the offense, again, putting the defense in a bad situation, 4th and 10, they went for it, questionable decision, and then questionable decision on the play. Jalen Hurts doesn't throw the ball away. So not only do you turn the ball over on downs? He lost about 8 yards on that play. The Colts get the ball at the 50 at midfield. The defense stops them. They did a fantastic job. They did not allow a touchdown after that beginning drive. I was just so impressed with, it's not a great offense. They don't have great playmakers there. We know what Matt Ryan is at this point, 15 years into his career. He's above average. He'll make plays. He's a statue, and they took advantage of him being a statue. We'll get into that later as we look ahead, because next week you have Aaron Rodgers. So the defense, I think I was tearing them apart last week. The death by a million cuts. You think it's going to go that way, and all of a sudden they save you. They save you. And it set up the opportunity for Jalen Hurts to save this team as a whole. So the new guys were great. The defense was great. TJ Edwards, again, I feel like they kept calling his name all day today. He made multiple tackles for loss, especially a big one where you had the shades of Reggie Brown and Sheldon, or Reggie Bush and Sheldon Brown, where Jonathan Taylor caught that swing route, and you're like, oh boy, he's about to get lit up. TJ Edwards was just great. He was great, just reading, reacting, making the tackles, and that's great to see, to have that production from your front seven today. That was a lot of positives for a game that you won by 1 point against a team that's 4-6-1. We have to get negative for a little bit. That offense, it was almost shocking. And it's been the second straight week where you're not even mad. You're just shocked at how bad it went at times. Like for an offense that was great for the better half of the season, what we've seen recently, oh my goodness, that first 3 quarters was abysmal. There's just no rhythmic flow to what they're doing. And it's almost like they're guessing. Like there's just situations where it's like, you guys don't have a feel for the game. Here's an example that probably goes overlooked, and it doesn't really matter in the long run. But Jalen Hurts has that incredible 23-yard run where he ran in a circle, got the first down, kept running. He's clearly gassed, right? So it's like, all right, perfect time. Let's get the run game going. Nope. Pass play right after that. He has no gas left in the tank. So he's kind of, he's mobile, but he's trying to get out of the pocket, and he just had nothing and just threw it away. Just like, there's no feel, there's no flow. There's reasons for that, but at the same time, it was like there were just like red flags that you weren't accustomed to seeing. For instance, we talk about it on our show all the time. The Eagles, when going gets rough, they get going with their patented screw you drive, is what we like to call it, where they're going to run the ball and you can't stop it anyways. Well, they couldn't get the run game going today. I thought they did. The offensive line had a really rough day. There were multiple times where there was pressure on Jalen Hurts right away. Even the game-winning touchdown drive, the first play of that drive, it was pressure on Jalen Hurts, and he has to throw it away, 2nd and 10. It was rough to watch. And it's just like the shooting yourself in the foot mistakes have got to stop. You look at it, you're driving down the field in the first half, you get the ball to the opponent's 35, and all of a sudden you're back at your own 40 when it's 1st and 35. The broadcast definitely could have done a better job of like showing those penalties, because you didn't really get to see a lot of what happened. The illegal man downfield on Jason Kelce, I thought was rough, because he was clearly trying to just block, and whiffed on the block and ended up like down the field. Like that's how he ended up down the field, is like he was just trying to block. So I feel like that was technically, I don't think you should have called that penalty in that situation, but I didn't get to see the other ones. But and anyways, you're in 1st and 35 and you kill the drive. Again, a wide receiver fumble this week. So that's 3 from your skill position players in the past 2 weeks. Quez Watkins, that one was rough last week. And then the A.J. Brown one, that was a momentum killer this week. The Dallas Goedert one is really tough to put on him, given that he was having his neck broken on a face mask call that wasn't called, and ended up with a shoulder injury. But it's just like, you're preaching ball security. We saw them doing the drills in practice this week. We tweeted it out from Birds vs. Voice Pod. Go follow it. And then you have that fumble again. It's just like, you guys aren't crisp. You're not executing well. There's no flow. And just like the 4th and 10 situation where it just feels like you're forcing it at that point. It just feels like you're trying to put the chips on the table kind of move. And it's like, you got to trust your kicker in a dome from 50. Like if you're not going to trust them in a climate controlled dome, like where can you trust them for a 50+ yard field goal for that? And it just felt like they were forcing things. And there's just multiple examples of that, and just not crisp play. Jason Kelce with the high snap that backs you up, and then you have to take the field goal when you're down in the red zone instead of getting the 7 points, and you settle for 3. And then even at the end of the game, so even when we get to the positive stuff, which I promise we will get back to positive, they did win today. The 2-minute situation. So it's coming down to the 2-minute warning. Like, I'm fine running it. Like, it was clear the Colts, they didn't want the Colts to get the ball back. It was like, we're scoring and winning this, or it's over and we lose. That was clear. So you get down to the 2-minute warning and the clock's winding down. It's like you could take it into the 2-minute warning and, then you have 2 plays to figure out what you want to do to get 4 yards. Well, they call the play and it's a 2-yard run. They weren't able to get the ball going the entire day. They're using Boston Scott instead of Miles Sanders for some reason, who had a rough day. I know the screen grabs going around of the swing pass he caught where he had all of that green grass inside and bounced it outside. And it's just like the 2-minute thing, though. So you're winding down. You can take it down to the 2-minute warning and then have 2 plays that you can talk about to get 4 yards and continue that drive. Well, they run the play. They get 2 yards running. So now it's 4th and 2 at the 2-minute warning. And it's like, by doing that, not only like it would have gave you more time to execute, but it also would have given the Colts less time to go down the field if you do score. So it was just weird. And then they come out of the 2-minute warning and they fake the QB sneak on 4th and 2 and try to draw them off sides. And it's like, well, why wouldn't you try to draw them off sides going into the 2-minute warning instead of coming out of it and then having to burn the timeout? Like, none of it made sense. And there was just no flow and rhythm to that. And that, if I have one like negative takeaway, it's just like, you guys aren't in sync like you were. Like, there was points this season where we felt like we were scoring on every drive. In the past 2 weeks, it's been like, what is the plan? Like, coming out of the half, you go 3 straight runs, you get the 3 and out. There was a point, the Colts were using a backup quarterback. You're doing comeback routes to Devontae Smith, AJ Brown. It's working. And then you run it 3 straight times. It's just like, what is the plan? Like, you guys just don't have a feel for the game plan, which is like really concerning to see. And that's not like that doesn't go away. Like, that's not a short-term problem. Like, hopefully they do turn around. And I think this was a momentum building win to get this win coming off of the Monday night loss. So they'll be fine there. But wow, it just felt really rough and almost shocking at the lack of just execution and flow of the offense, which put your defense in a lot of bad positions that they can't do going forward. But they did win this game. And why did they win this game? Because they have a winner at quarterback. Jalen Hurts was awesome down the stretch because that's who he is. He is a winner. He does stuff like this. Look at these stats for him this season in the 4th quarter, courtesy of Jeff Kerr. Jalen Hurts in the 4th quarter and overtime is 28 of 38. So that's 74% completion percentage, 303 yards, 4 touchdowns to 1 pick. That's a rating of 120.8. That's second in the NFL. Oh, and using his legs, he has 42 carries for 114 yards and a touchdown. He is clutch. He is a winner. And I think we needed to see a game like this where you saw him just say, you know what? Everything's gone wrong. So I'm just going to put this team on my shoulders and carry us to the victory. And that's exactly what he did. Literally carrying the football, doing things like that. He was fantastic. And I saw a tweet from Benjamin Solak. I actually like him a lot in his breakdowns of the Eagles and of football in general. But I had to disagree with him on this point. He tweeted, Eagles potentially escaping ugly game with win in a tight NFC East race. That's good. Fair. But man, Hurts had a throwaway, a deep underthrow and into a defensive pass interference and 1 completion on that game-winning drive. Eagles called runs all the way down the field. No trust in Hurts as a thrower on that drive. To me, it wasn't necessarily the lack of trust in Jalen Hurts. I think right now there's a lack of trust in everything else. The tight end situation is going to be barren and rough while Dallas Goedert is out. There were 3 penalties from the tight ends today. They didn't really get open. They didn't provide anything for you offensively. So you really he's working without the tight end option that he's used to having in Goedert. There was I was listening to John Ritchie, who was rewatching the game, and he's like, wow, these guys are not separating, which you need to do. So thinking about your receivers, just not separating and stuff like that. And then again, on that throwaway, that's because there was a lot of pressure on him right away. And I think the offensive line had a bad game. So is it a lack of faith in Jalen Hurts as a thrower? No. I think it's more so you're going in the one thing that was working. There were 16 designed runs today for the quarterback. And it's just that was the one time and the only drive where it felt like they were doing something that had flow of the game and they were clear in what they wanted to do and execute, and they were going with what was hot and what worked. They must have seen something on tape that they could get away with that, as evidence on Jalen Hurts' game-winning rushing touchdown, where that opened up like Moses parting the Red Sea, and Boston Scott's looking for somebody to block. There's no one even there. And Jalen Hurts goes untouched into the end zone. They must have seen something with these designed runs that they called so many of them for him. And it's like, yeah, like you want him to be a great thrower and stuff like that. But at the same time, the elements weren't allowing him to do so today. And it's not entirely his fault. Actually, the level of fault that you put on him is almost minimal. It's all the elements around him. And they still won. They need a game like that, and they need to see a game like that. And it just proves who Jalen Hurts is. He is a clutch winner. That's it. In games like this, you trust him. And you can talk about, yeah, maybe you don't trust him as a thrower, but you trust him overall as a player and as a person in these tight crunch time situations, which will come up again as you improve to 9-1 and improve your odds in the playoff race, with some people losing today within our division in the Giants and the Vikings losing to giving you pretty much a 2-game lead for the 1 seed. So to see games like this where Jalen Hurts says, you know what, everything has gone wrong. Let me just handle this. Let me just win this for us real quick. And that even if it's using his legs versus using his arms, I think he's capable of both. They went with what was hot. They called the design runs and they got to win. And that's what matters most in the end. They are 9-1 at the end of the day because of Jalen Hurts. And that is what matters the most today. So I'm just like happy to have him. 190 yards passing today, 86 rushing yards, 2 total TDs. And I just think he just gives them a calming element to an offense that all of a sudden has needed a calming element over these past 2 weeks. Even last week in the loss, really hard to fault him because even on his interception, it hit a receiver in the hands. The other 2 turnovers, Dallas Goedert and Quez Watkins, well, it was a 63-yard deep bomb to Quez Watkins before the fumble. So I don't know what else you want from Jalen Hurts there. He's been good. He has been a winner. He has been clutch. He has been your anchor all season. And I am just like really thankful to have him on days like today. It just proves like this kid is taking the next step. And yeah, maybe there is a little too much evidence or emphasis on his legs, but you don't win the game today without his legs. So is it a bad thing? I don't know. I think it's just a team that's seeing what works and him knowing what works and going with it when it matters most to get the win. So they do get the win, some redemption for some guys. That's another big point today. Quez Watkins with the touchdown. He had the big fumble last week, so you got redemption there. And Brandon Graham. Hey, at the end of the game last week, what did we see? That iffy penalty where it's a personal foul and got the Commanders the new set of downs in the win. Well, how about this time? Game on the line. He gets the sack this week and kind of puts them into a 4th and 16. Ended up being a 4th and 21. Defense gets off the field one more time, game over. So a redemption for a lot of guys who needed it, which was great to see. And now we build. Next week, debut of the all-black uniforms, the black helmets. I cannot wait. You have Aaron Rodgers coming in, and you're going to see some similar elements to what the Packers like to do as the Colts, because Aaron Rodgers isn't that mobile. They like to run it with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. So it's another matchup where you're like, all right, gotta make sure that we're putting them in these 2nd and 11, 2nd and 12s, which we saw today that they are capable of doing. So Sunday Night Football, primetime, all black uniforms. I could not be more excited. Let's get the double-digit wins. Today is a win because Jalen Hurts is a winner. The new guys balled out. Let's keep rolling. The things kind of stacked up in your favor today with the Giants loss. The Giants and Cowboys are going to play on Thanksgiving. Somebody's going to have a loss there. Hopefully it's the Cowboys. And then the Vikings got absolutely shellacked today by the Cowboys. So now you have that 2-game lead. So just if you keep winning, things are going to work out in your favor. You're going to get some horses back in Davis Maddox and Dallas Goedert, and you're going to have full steam ahead into the playoffs. Just keep winning and keep moving and keep believing in Jalen Hurts. We'll be back early this week with our show. Cowboys playing on Thanksgiving, and then we have the primetime matchup Sunday. We've got you covered. Alexa Ross will be back on with us for another interview recapping this game, as well as looking forward to the week ahead. We cannot wait. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you then.